I knew something was terribly wrong the moment I woke up to 50 missed calls. Not 5. Not 10. 50. And they were all from my family. My phone screen lit up my dark Chicago apartment like a police siren, texts stacking on top of each other, notifications vibrating across the coffee table. Mom, Dad, my brother Luke, even my sister, the sister whose wedding I had refused to attend. For a moment, my heart stopped. Someone must have died. My hands shook as I picked up the phone and checked the time. 3:17 a.m. Outside my apartment window, downtown Chicago was silent except for the distant hum of a late-night train. My fridge buzzed softly in the kitchen, the only sound in the room, but my phone kept vibrating. I opened the messages. Kale Montgomery and CY. Madison, pick up the damn phone. Police, police. My stomach twisted. 2 days earlier, my family had flown to Italy for my sister Chloe's extravagant destination wedding on Lake Como. The kind of wedding that looks like a movie. Old stone villas, candlelit terraces, champagne towers. Chloe had been posting nonstop on Instagram, pictures of her spinning in a custom designer dress that probably cost more than my first car. Her fiancé, Lorenzo, standing beside her looking stiff and uncomfortable in every photo. Something about him had always bothered me. But nobody listened to me in my family. I was just the boring one. The responsible one. The one with spreadsheets instead of romance. I worked as a senior financial analyst, which meant I could do math in my head faster than most people could unlock their phones. And the math of this wedding had never added up. My parents had refinanced their house twice. They carried mountains of credit card debt. Yet suddenly they were hosting a luxury Italian wedding like they were billionaires. When Chloe asked if I was coming, I told them I had a work merger closing. That was a lie. The truth. I couldn't watch them destroy themselves financially again, not for Chloe. Not after everything. My phone buzzed again. I finally tapped Dad's contact and called back. He answered on the first ring, Madison. His voice cracked like glass. In the background I heard shouting, not English, Italian, then something else. A woman crying hysterically. Dad? I sat up in bed. What's going on? It's a disaster, he said breathlessly. What kind of disaster? Lorenzo is gone. I blinked. Gone where? He ran. The words hit me like cold water. He what? He took everything, Dad said, panic climbing into his voice. The wedding gifts, the envelopes, the jewelry Chloe got tonight, the rental car. Everything? I rubbed my temples. My brain was already processing numbers. How much money are we talking about? I don't know, he shouted. A lot. That's terrible, I said carefully. But why are the police there? Silence. Then Dad whispered something that made my stomach drop. They're not here for him. My grip tightened on the phone. What do you mean? They're here for us. My pulse spiked. Dad, what happened? In the background I heard my mother screaming. Then a loud crash. Like something expensive breaking. Dad lowered his voice. Your brother and your mom, they didn't take the news well. That was the understatement of the century. What did they do? There was some damage. Damage. The villa. My brain froze. The villa. He exhaled sharply. Luke threw a statue through a glass display case. Your mom knocked over a painting. Chloe started smashing dishes. I stared at the wall. You're telling me, I said slowly, that our family vandalized a historic villa in Italy? Yes. And the police showed up? Yes. And now what? They arrested Luke. My chest tightened. And Chloe. They've got her in a room with officers. And you? They took our passports. Of course they did. I swung my legs out of bed. Okay, I said, switching into problem-solving mode. You need a lawyer. We don't have time for a lawyer. Then call the U.S. Embassy. They said if we don't pay the damages tonight, they'll file criminal charges. My stomach dropped. How much? Dad hesitated. Then he said a number that made my blood run cold. 25,000 euros. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was insane. You woke me up at 3 in the morning for $25,000. They want it wired immediately. Then use your credit cards. They're maxed out. Of course they were. Dad, I told you not to do this wedding. Stop lecturing me, he snapped. This is your sister. I warned you about this guy. She's sitting in a wedding dress surrounded by police. He yelled. Have some compassion. Guilt crept into my chest. That old, familiar feeling. The one they'd programmed into me since childhood. Fix it, Madison. Clean up the mess. Be the responsible one. How do you expect me to send that kind of money right now? I asked quietly. Call your bank and authorize a transfer. Something about the way he said that made my skin crawl. Why can't you do it? I told you. Our cards are maxed. But the villa booking, the deposit, the catering you paid for all that weeks ago. Silence. A long silence. Then Dad said something strange. Just call your bank. Why was he so focused on my bank? A knot formed in my stomach. Dade? What? Why can't you use your accounts? Madison, just do it. I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed my laptop from the nightstand. My fingers moved across the keyboard. Are you wiring the money? Dad asked. I'm checking something. My banking portal loaded. Then my credit monitoring dashboard opened. And immediately, a red alert banner flashed across the screen. Enuasixo UNTO Penindi, 14 Diwas AGO. My heart skipped. What are you doing? Dad demanded. I clicked the alert. A personal line of credit, 18,000 euros, opened in Italy. My breathing slowed. Ice cold. I said quietly. What? Who signed the rental contract for the villa? That doesn't matter right now. Yes, it does. Heavy breathing filled the line. Then my mother grabbed the phone. We didn't have a choice, she blurted. A chill ran through me. What did you do? You have perfect credit, Madison, she said desperately. You never use it anyway. The screen scrolled down. The rental agreement appeared. Villa Bellarosa. Lassie name Madison, read my name, and below it, a signature. My signature. Except it wasn't mine. A sloppy forgery. My stomach dropped into my feet. You stole my identity? I whispered. We were going to pay it off with wedding gifts. Mom cried. Lorenzo said his family would cover the venue. You opened a credit line in my name? For the family. You rented the villa under my identity. If you don't pay this, she screamed, the debt is legally yours. The trap snapped shut in my mind. If I wired the money, I'd be accepting responsibility. For fraud. For the villa. For everything. Dad's voice came back on the phone, cold and hard. Wire the money, Madison. My hands stopped shaking. For 30 years I had been the safety net. The fixer. The good daughter. But suddenly something inside me changed. They thought they had me cornered. They thought I'd be too afraid to fight. Too afraid to ruin my reputation. Too afraid to expose them. They forgot one thing. I worked with risk for a living. And the biggest risk in my life was my own family. I took a slow breath. Then I said something that made everyone on the line go silent. Put the police officer on the phone. What? Dad snapped. Now? Shuffling. Voices in Italian. Then a deep voice came through. Hello. This is Captain Rossi. I sat very still. My name is Madison Reed, I said calmly. I'm calling from Chicago. There was a pause. Your family says you are wiring the damages. No, I said. I inhaled slowly. And delivered the sentence that would destroy my family forever. I'm calling to report a crime. I'm calling to report a crime. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. For a split second, nobody said anything. Then chaos exploded on the other end of the phone. Madison, what are you doing? My mother screamed somewhere in the background. Give me the phone, my dad shouted. A chair scraped across the floor. Someone was crying. Someone else was shouting in rapid-fire Italian, but the police officer's voice stayed calm. Madam, Captain Rossi said carefully, your family told us you signed the rental agreement for the villa. I didn't, I said. The words came out steady. Too steady, like someone else was speaking through me. I have never been to Italy. I didn't authorize the lease, and I certainly didn't open a credit line in my name. Behind the officer, my mother shrieked again. Madison stopped talking. I ignored her. I work as a financial analyst in Chicago. I continued. I have 6 months of passport records showing I never left the United States. Captain Rossi went quiet. I could practically hear his brain shifting gears. Fraud, identity theft, international financial crime. Maddie, please, My father begged suddenly. His voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. They'll arrest us. I stared at the glow of my laptop screen. They already did. Don't do this to your family, he whispered. That sentence hit me harder than I expected. Because growing up, family had always meant something different to me than it did to them. To them, family meant someone who would clean up their mess. To me, family was supposed to mean trust, and they had just forged my name on a legal contract halfway across the world. Captain Rossi cleared his throat. Madam Reed, he said, can you provide documentation proving you were not present for the signing of this lease? Yes. Immediately. Yes. Then please send it to the email I will provide. In the background, my sister's voice suddenly erupted. You backstabbing psycho! Chloe. Her voice was hoarse, hysterical. You're ruining my wedding? I almost laughed. Your wedding? Your groom literally ran off with the gifts. But somehow I was the villain. Captain, I said calmly, I also need to report unauthorized credit activity tied to my identity. You believe your family opened the account. I know they did. My mother sobbed loudly. We did it for you. For me. I whispered. Yes! The wedding would have brought the family prestige? Prestige. My brain almost short-circuited. They had destroyed my financial identity for prestige. Captain Rossi spoke again. If this claim is accurate, the situation becomes much more serious. How serious? I ask. Identity fraud involving international financial agreements can carry criminal penalties. Behind him someone cursed. Probably my brother. Luke had never been great with consequences. Captain, wait. My dad said desperately. This is a misunderstanding. Sir. Rossi replied evenly. I would advise you to stop speaking. I closed my eyes for a moment. This was really happening. My family was being investigated for fraud, and I was the one who had started it. My phone exploded with new messages the moment I hung up. Not from my parents. From everyone else. Cousins. Aunts. Family friends. Apparently news traveled fast when your family had a meltdown in an Italian villa. My cousin Aaron texted first. What the hell are you doing? Then another. Your mom says you're refusing to help. Another. Chloe is having a breakdown. Another. Are you seriously letting your sister go to jail? I dropped the phone on the couch. My apartment suddenly felt very quiet. Too quiet. Outside my window, the Chicago skyline was beginning to glow with the first hint of sunrise. But inside my chest, everything felt dark. Because part of me still felt guilty. Even after everything. Even after the fraud. Even after the lies. I opened my laptop again. If I was going to protect myself, I had to move fast. First, call my bank's fraud department. A woman named Danielle answered. Thank you for contacting Chase Fraud Protection. I need to report identity theft, I said. Her tone immediately shifted into professional seriousness. Okay, ma'am. What seems to be the issue? My parents opened a credit line in Italy under my name and forged my signature on a rental contract. There was a pause. Then Danielle said quietly. I'm going to escalate this case. Good. Because this wasn't just a family argument anymore. This was a financial crime investigation. Within minutes, she locked the account. Flagged the credit line. Filed an international fraud notice. Then she asked something that made my stomach tighten. Mom. Do you believe this is the first time they've used your identity? I blinked. What? We're seeing a few unusual credit inquiries from the past year. My pulse quickened. What kind of inquiries? She started listing them. Loan applications, credit checks, rental background pulls, all originating from one place, my parents' home address. My chest went cold. Oh my God. Mum. This isn't the first time. My hands began shaking again. Because suddenly the past started making sense. The weird questions my mom asked last year, the time my dad wanted my social security number for insurance paperwork, the credit card offer I received that I never applied for. They hadn't just stolen my identity once. They'd been using it for months. Maybe longer. Danielle spoke again. Would you like us to open a full fraud investigation? I stared at the Chicago sunrise outside my window. If I said yes, there was no going back. My parents could face prison. My sister too. But if I said no, they could destroy my financial life. I thought about something my dad said earlier. If we go down, you go down with us. No, not anymore. Yes, I said quietly. I want the full investigation. 20 minutes later my phone rang again. Italy. I hesitated, then answered. Captain Rossi. Miss Reed, he said. Yes. We have reviewed preliminary details. And the situation has escalated. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? The villa owner has filed formal charges. For the damage. Yes. And for fraudulent contract agreements. I exhaled slowly. Are my parents under arrest? Yes. What about Chloe? She is being detained for questioning. My sister, sitting in a police station, still wearing her wedding dress. Because the fairy tale she built had just collapsed. Captain Rossi continued. There is also another complication. My chest tightened. What complication? The groom. Lorenzo. The man who ran. Yes. They found him. None what? Captain Rossi paused. Then he said something that made the entire situation even more disturbing. The man your sister married. Yes. Does not appear to exist. Silence filled the room. What do you mean? The identity he provided is fake. My brain struggled to process that. He's a scammer. Yes. And he targeted my sister. Yes. But Captain Rossi's next sentence made my stomach drop even further. However. What? We believe your parents may have known. My heart stopped. What are you saying? We found messages between your father and the groom discussing financial arrangements before the wedding. The room started spinning. My dad, talking to the scammer. Before the wedding. Captain, I whispered. Are you saying my family helped plan this? There was a long pause, then Captain Rossi said quietly. We are beginning to suspect that the wedding was never real. The wedding was never real. Captain Rossi's words echoed through my apartment like a bomb going off in slow motion. For a few seconds I couldn't speak. Couldn't even breathe. What do you mean? I finally asked. On the other end of the phone, I could hear papers shuffling and quiet conversations in Italian. We are still investigating. Rossi said carefully, but evidence suggests the man your sister married used a fabricated identity. Okay. I said slowly, so he's a con artist. Yes. But how does that involve my parents? There was a pause. Then Rossi said something that made my stomach twist. We recovered text messages between your father and the groom. My fingers tightened around the phone. What kind of messages? Financial discussions. The room felt colder. About what? About money being transferred after the ceremony. My mind raced. That doesn't make sense. It may indicate your father had prior contact with this individual. Prior contact. Meaning my father might have known Lorenzo before the wedding. Which meant, no, that couldn't be right. You're saying my dad was working with him. We cannot confirm that yet, Rossi replied. But it is one of the possibilities. I leaned back against my couch, staring at the ceiling. Everything about my family was messy, irresponsible, dramatic, but criminal. That felt like crossing into a completely different universe. Captain, I said slowly, my parents are reckless, but they wouldn't scam their own daughter. Rossi didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his tone was careful. Miss Reed, sometimes people commit crimes when they believe there is no other option. That sentence lingered in my chest like a stone, because deep down, I knew something about my parents. They were terrified of losing their lifestyle, even when they had no money. Especially when they had no money. They had spent my entire childhood pretending we were richer than we actually were. Country club memberships we couldn't afford. Designer clothes bought on credit. Lavish family parties that always ended with quiet arguments about bills. Appearances meant everything to them. Even if the reality behind the curtain was falling apart. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. CHIOE's Buar Palms Madison, you better fix this right now. I closed my eyes. Of course she would start with a demand. Another message appeared. They're saying I could be charged. Another. Luke is already in handcuffs. Another. Mom is having a panic attack. Then the final one. If you loved this family you would wire the money. My chest tightened. It was amazing how consistent the script was. Even now, even with police involved, even with fraud investigations, their solution was always the same: make Madison pay. I typed one sentence, then deleted it, then typed another. Deleted that too. Because there was nothing left to say. Instead, I blocked the number. An hour later my phone rang again. This time it was my bank. "Miss Reed," Danielle said. "Our fraud department found additional activity." I sat up straight. "What kind?" "There are 3 other loans opened under your name over the last 12 months. My stomach dropped. "How much?" "Approximately $82,000. I felt physically sick. "We're 2 personal loans and a business credit line." "A business credit line?" I repeated. "Yes." "What business?" Danielle hesitated. "Your father's." My head snapped up. "My dad's construction company." Yes. That company had gone bankrupt 2 years ago, or at least that's what they told everyone. "What?" I said slowly. "That company doesn't exist anymore. According to these documents." Danielle said, "It does." I opened my laptop again. "Send me everything." 30 seconds later the files arrived. Loan agreements, credit applications, electronic signatures, all under my name. My forged name. Every document listed the same guarantor, Madison Reed. Every one of them tied back to my parents' address. My vision blurred. They hadn't just stolen my identity for a wedding. They had been living off my credit. For months. Maybe years. And suddenly Captain Ross's theory started making sense. What if the wedding wasn't just a celebration? What if it was a last-ditch financial scheme? I called Rossi back immediately. He answered. "Miss Reed, I think you're right." "About what?" "This wedding." "Yes, it wasn't just a scam." "Explain." "My parents have been using my identity to take out loans." "How much?" "Over $80,000. Rossi whistled softly. "That is significant." "And if they were desperate enough to do that," I continued, "they might have tried something bigger." "Such as?" I stared at the wedding photos Chloe had posted 2 days earlier. The lavish decorations, the expensive venue, the fake groom, an insurance payout. Silence filled the phone. Then Rossi said quietly, "That possibility has crossed our minds." My stomach twisted. "How?" "The villa owner mentioned something unusual." "What?" "Your father insisted on purchasing a very large event insurance policy." My heart started pounding. "How large?" 100,000 euros. I nearly dropped the phone. "And what would trigger that payout?" I asked. Rossi answered with chilling calm. "Significant damage to the property." My chest tightened. The pieces snapped together in my mind like a puzzle finally solved. The expensive venue, the massive insurance policy, the fake groom, the chaotic meltdown. It wasn't a random disaster. It was a setup. "Captain," I whispered. "Yes." "I think my family planned to trash the villa. To collect the insurance money." Another long pause. "That would explain many things." "But Lorenzo ruined it," I said. "Yes. He stole the gifts and ran before the plan happened." "That appears possible." My stomach twisted again. My parents had tried to commit insurance fraud at a historic Italian villa, using my identity as the legal renter. If the plan had worked, I would have been the one legally responsible. My entire career would have been destroyed. My CPA license. My financial record. Everything. And they had never even told me. Rossi spoke again. "There is one more detail you should know." My throat tightened. "What is it?" "The groom left something behind." "What?" "A phone. And we recovered several messages." My heart pounded. "What kind of messages?" Rossi took a breath. "Messages between him and your sister." My pulse froze. "What do they say?" "They suggest she knew the plan." The room went completely silent. Because if Chloe knew, then this wasn't just my parents' scheme. My sister had been part of it too. My sister, the golden child, the one my parents always protected, the one they expected me to save tonight. Rossi's voice came back through the phone. "There is also a final message from the groom." My throat tightened. "What does it say?" "Haish wrote it 1 hour before he disappeared. And" Rossi read it slowly. "Tell your parents the deal is off. I'm not going to prison for their stupid plan." My heart pounded against my ribs. Captain. Yes. I think my entire family just tried to frame me for a crime. I thought the worst part was over. I was wrong. Because the next phone call I got didn't come from Italy. It came from my aunt in Texas. The moment I answered, she didn't even say hello. What the hell is wrong with you, Madison? I closed my eyes. Of course. The family had already started rewriting the story. Aunt Karen. I said calmly. You should probably. Your mother is in a hospital, she snapped. My stomach tightened. What? She collapsed from stress because of what you did. There it was. The classic move. Make me the villain. She committed fraud using my identity, I said quietly. That's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. The police. Your parents said you're refusing to help them. I exhaled slowly. They stole my credit. They raised you! They forged my signature! Families make mistakes! I stared at the Chicago skyline outside my window. Sunlight was creeping over the buildings now. The city was waking up. Meanwhile, my life felt like it was collapsing in slow motion. Aunt Karen. I said softly. If someone stole your identity and put you on the hook for a six-figure debt, what would you do? Silence. Then she said something that told me everything I needed to know. Well, that's different. Of course it was. Because it was happening to me. You're the stable one, she added. There it was again. The role they had assigned me my entire life. The responsible daughter. The fixer. The one who absorbs the damage. Your sister's life is falling apart. Karen continued. Can't you just send the money? My jaw tightened. No. You're being selfish. I'm protecting myself. You're abandoning your family. No. I said quietly. They abandoned me first. She hung up. Just like that. And suddenly I understood something important. The extended family would never take my side. Because if they admitted my parents were wrong, they'd have to admit the entire family system was broken. And that was something nobody wanted to face. Another unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something told me to answer. Hello. A male voice spoke. Low. Careful. Madison Reed. Yes. This is Captain Rossi. My stomach tightened. What happened? There has been another development. Of course there had. There always was with my family. What kind of development? The man your sister was involved with. Lorenzo. Yes. You found him. Not exactly. My pulse quickened. Then what? He contacted us. I blinked. He did. Yes. Why? Rossi hesitated. He claims he wants to make a deal. A chill slid down my spine. A deal with who? With the police. And what does that have to do with me? He specifically asked for you. My heart skipped. Yes. Why? He says he has information about your parents. I leaned forward. What kind of information? Evidence. My pulse jumped. Evidence of what? Rossi took a breath. Financial fraud. Of course. But then he added something that made my stomach drop even lower. And something else. What? He claims they plan to leave the country. My chest tightened. Leave? Yes. Where? He believes they intended to move to South America. My mind reeled. That meant they weren't planning to fix the damage. They were planning to run and leave the debt behind. In my name. Captain, I said slowly, are you telling me my parents were planning to flee the country after committing fraud under my identity? That appears to be the case. I felt a wave of anger rise in my chest. Hot, sharp. For 30 years I had tried to be the good daughter, the loyal one, the one who believed family mattered, and they had been planning to destroy my life and disappear. Does he have proof? I asked. Wes. What kind? Bank records. That word hit me like a hammer. Bank records. Yes. Showing what? A hidden account. My heart started pounding again. How much money? Rossi didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was quiet. Over 300,000 euros. The room spun. 300,000. My parents had told everyone they were drowning in debt, that they were barely surviving, that they needed help. Meanwhile, they had secretly moved hundreds of thousands of dollars overseas. My hands trembled. They could have paid the villa damages themselves. Yes. But instead they tried to force me to do it. Yes. So they could keep the money. Yes. My chest tightened. All those years. All those times they told me they were broke. All those emergencies. All those moments I sent money because I thought they were struggling. It had all been a lie. Captain, I said slowly, what does Lorenzo want? He says he will give us the bank records. And he wants immunity. I laughed bitterly. Of course he did. The scammer wanted protection. What about my sister? I asked. Your sister appears to have known about the plan. The words landed like a punch to the gut. Chloe knew. She had known the entire time. The wedding, the fake fiancé, the insurance scam, the identity theft. All of it, and she still had the nerve to call me a traitor. Rossi spoke again. There is one more thing. My stomach sank. What now? The villa owner. Yes. He is filing a civil lawsuit. Against who? You. Of course he was. Because legally, I was the one who had signed the lease. Or at least that's what the document said. How much? 200,000 euros. My chest tightened. Captain. Yes. If I prove the identity theft, the liability will shift to the people who committed the fraud. My parents. My sister. My brother. My entire family. I stood up and walked to the window. The city was fully awake now. Cars filled the streets. People rushed to work. Normal life continued, but mine had just exploded. Miss Reed, Rossi said gently, you may need to testify. Against my family. Wes. I looked down at the street 30 floors below. 3 months ago, my biggest worry had been a corporate merger deadline. Now I was preparing to testify in an international fraud case against my own parents. And somehow, that still wasn't the most shocking part. Because the real question burning in my mind was this: if my parents had 300,000 euros hidden overseas, then why were they so desperate tonight? I turned back toward my laptop. Captain? I said slowly. Yes. I think there's something even bigger going on. What do you mean? I stared at the loan documents Danielle had sent earlier. $82,000. 3 secret loans. All taken out in my name. All in the last 12 months. Because people who have $300,000 hidden in offshore accounts. Yes. Don't need to steal 80,000 from their daughter. Rossi went quiet. Then he said something that made my pulse spike again. You are correct. My throat tightened. Which means they may be hiding much more money than we thought. And suddenly the question changed. This wasn't just about a wedding, or identity theft, or insurance fraud. The real question was far more dangerous. How big was my family's scam? I thought my family had already betrayed me in every possible way. Identity theft, fraud, trying to frame me for a 6-figure lawsuit. But the message I received from my mother that morning proved something even worse. They had never actually seen me as family at all. It was around 9:30 a.m. in Chicago when the message came through. I had barely slept. After my calls with the bank and Captain Rossi, I'd spent hours gathering documents, passport scans, work records, apartment lease confirmations. Anything that could prove I'd been in the United States when the Italian contract was signed. My dining table looked like a crime investigation board. Laptop open. Bank files everywhere. Coffee cup half empty. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I sighed and opened the message. The contact name read Mom. Hospitality. The text was only 2 sentences. You've destroyed this family. Then another message appeared immediately after. If you don't fix this right now, we're telling the police the truth about you. I frowned. The truth about me. My stomach tightened. I typed back. What truth? 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally her reply came through. The truth about the money you stole from us. I stared at the screen. My brain struggled to process the sentence. What are you talking about? Her response came instantly. Don't play dumb. The $120,000 you took from Dad's company. The room went silent. Because I had never taken a single dollar from my father's business. Ever. Are they serious? I muttered to myself. Another message came. If we go down, you go down with us. There it was again. The threat. The same line my dad had used earlier. But this time something clicked in my head. I opened the documents Danielle from the fraud department had sent earlier. 3 loans. $82,000. But there was something else buried in the files. A business account connected to my father's company. An account I hadn't noticed before. My pulse quickened. I opened the transaction history, and that's when I saw it, a transfer. Exactly 1 year ago, $120,000. Transferred from the company account into a private account under my name. My stomach dropped. Because I had never opened that account. But legally, it looked like I had. Holy hell. They had already tried this once before. A full year ago. They had moved money from my dad's company into an account created under my identity, and if the company ever got audited, it would look like I had stolen the money. My hands began shaking. This wasn't just fraud anymore. This was financial sabotage. I grabbed my phone and called Captain Rossi again. He answered quickly. Miss Reed. I just found something. Go ahead. My mother just threatened to accuse me of stealing $120,000 from my dad's business. There was a pause. Did you? No. Do you have proof? I have something better. What? Evidence they already moved that money under my name. Silence. Then Rossi said quietly, send me everything. While I uploaded the documents, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. For a moment I thought it was another relative ready to scream at me. But when I answered, the voice was unfamiliar. Male. Low. Careful. Madison Reed. Yes, this is Lorenzo. I froze. The fake groom. The con artist. The man who started this entire disaster. You've got some nerve calling me? I said. I know. He replied calmly. But you should hear what I have to say. My grip tightened on the phone. You stole my sister's wedding gifts. Your sister was part of the plan. That sentence landed like a punch. I know that now. Then you should know something else. What? Your parents lied to you about how we met. My stomach tightened. Explain. Chloe didn't find me on a dating app. My pulse spiked. Then where? Your father hired me. The room felt like it tilted sideways. He what? A contacted me 6 months ago. For what? For a job. What kind of job? Pretending to be Chloe's fiancé. The words hung in the air like smoke. You're telling me this entire relationship was fake? Yes. And my sister knew. Of course she knew. My heart pounded. So the wedding was staged. Every piece of the puzzle started sliding into place. The luxury villa. The insurance policy. The dramatic meltdown. The damage. They had been planning to fake a catastrophic wedding disaster. Collect the insurance payout. And then disappear. Using my identity as the renter. So why did you run? I asked. Because your father changed the deal. How? He wanted me to testify that you organized the fraud. My blood went cold. What? He said if the police investigated, I should claim you were the mastermind. My knees nearly buckled. They weren't just planning to frame me for the debt, they were planning to frame me for the entire crime. Insurance fraud, property destruction, everything, and you refused? I asked. Yes. Why? Because prison in Italy sounds terrible. Despite everything, a bitter laugh escaped my mouth. Fair point. There was a pause. Then Lorenzo said something that made the situation even darker. Your parents also lied to me. How? They told me you were in on the plan. My chest tightened. They said what? They told me the money would be wired from your account after the insurance payout. I stared at the wall. They had been telling everyone different lies. To me, to the police, to Lorenzo, to the insurance company, a web of deception so tangled it was collapsing under its own weight. So what do you want from me? I asked. I want protection? From who? Your father. I frowned. You're scared of my dad. He's not just some broke businessman. Madison. A chill crept down my spine. What do you mean? He's been running scams like this for years. My heart skipped. Years. Yes, with different people. Different scams. Different victims. Different identities. Suddenly my father's mysterious financial swings over the years started making sense. Lorenzo. I said slowly. Yes. How many times has he done this? There was a long pause. Then he answered quietly. More than 10. My breath caught in my throat. 10 scams, 10 victims, 10 lives ruined. And somehow I had been the one who finally exposed him. Lorenzo spoke again. There's one more thing you should know. My stomach twisted. What? The police in Italy aren't the only ones investigating your father. My pulse spiked. Who else? Federal agents in the United States. My heart nearly stopped. Why? Because one of his previous scams involved a bank in New York. The room went silent. Because suddenly this wasn't just an Italian police case, it wasn't even just identity theft. My father might be part of a multi-country fraud investigation. And somehow, I had just blown the entire thing open. Lorenzo's voice returned. You might want to prepare yourself. For what? Because once the authorities connect all the dots. My grip tightened on the phone. What happens? They're going to realize your father didn't just scam strangers. A cold dread filled my chest. He scammed his own daughter too. The moment Lorenzo said federal agents were involved, my entire body went cold. I stood in the middle of my apartment staring at the wall, my phone still pressed to my ear. Lorenzo, I said slowly. How do you know about that? Because your father asked me to help move money through a US account. My pulse spiked. What account? An account opened under your name. Of course it was. Every road in this disaster somehow led back to me. Did you do it? I asked. No. Why not? Because something about the situation felt wrong. I almost laughed at the irony. The professional scammer had better instincts than my own family. What exactly did my father want you to do? I pressed. He wanted me to wire money from the Italian insurance payout to a business account in New York. And then it would be transferred again. To where? Brazil. Brazil. My stomach twisted. Why Brazil? Your father said he had business partners there. Business partners. Right, because that's exactly how international fraud operations usually describe themselves. I paced across my living room, trying to keep my breathing steady. Lorenzo, why are you telling me all this? Because if your father gets out of this, I'm the one he'll blame. So you're protecting yourself? Yes. And what do you want from me? I want you to give this information to the police. I already am. Good. There was a pause. Then Lorenzo added quietly, because once the authorities dig into your father's finances. My chest tightened. Yes. They're going to find a lot more than one fake wedding. Before I could respond, he hung up. I stood there for a long moment, staring at my phone. The air in my apartment suddenly felt heavy, like the walls themselves knew my life was about to change. Then my phone rang again. Unknown number. Area code Washington, D.C. My stomach flipped. I answered slowly. Hello. Is this Madison Reed? Yes. This is Special Agent Daniel Carter with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The words sent a chill down my spine. FBI. So Lorenzo hadn't been exaggerating. Agent Carter, I said cautiously. Would like to speak with you about your father. I sank onto the couch. I figured you might. There was a pause on the line. You sound surprisingly calm. That's because the Italian police already called me. Another pause. Then you're aware of the situation in Lake Como. Yes. And the fraud investigation. Yes. Good. Carter said. That saves us some time. I leaned forward. How long have you been investigating my father? The agent didn't hesitate. 3 years. My stomach dropped. 3 years. Yes. For what? Financial fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. My chest tightened. Across multiple states. How many victims? At least 12. My head spun. That's impossible. We believe your father ran a network that targeted people with strong credit profiles. My pulse quickened. Like me. Wes. And he used those identities to secure loans and insurance payouts. My heart pounded. Why wasn't he arrested before? We were waiting for the right evidence. And now you have it? Who might? Silence filled the line. Then Carter said something that made my hands start shaking. Your father made a mistake. What kind of mistake? He used the same identity twice. Mine, of course. Madison, Carter continued, you are both a victim and a key witness in this case. I swallowed. What do you need from me? Everything. I laughed weakly. Well, that's convenient, because I just discovered my parents have been committing fraud under my name for at least a year. That matches what we've found. Great. But there's something else we need to tell you. My chest tightened. What? You're not the only family member involved. A cold dread spread through my stomach. My sister already admitted she knew about the plan. Yes. But that's not who I'm talking about? My pulse spiked. Then who? Agent Carter's voice dropped slightly. Your brother. Luke. My throat went dry. What about him? He's been helping your father move money between accounts. My heart sank. Luke had always been reckless. But criminal. That was different. What kind of money? I asked. Loan payouts, insurance claims, and business transfers. How much? Over $1 million in the last 5 years. The room spun. 1 million. My father hadn't just been running small scams. He had built an entire fraud operation. And my brother had been part of it. Agent Carter. I whispered. Are my parents going to prison? There was a long pause. Then he said quietly. If the charges stick, yes. I leaned back on the couch. For a moment, the room was silent except for the distant sound of Chicago traffic. My entire family, my parents, my sister, my brother, all criminals. And somehow I had spent 30 years trying to earn their approval. Agent Carter spoke again. There is one more reason we're contacting you. I closed my eyes. What now? We believe your father may try to contact you again. For what? To convince you to lie. That sounded exactly like him. If he does, Carter said, would like you to record the conversation. My eyes opened. You want me to trap him? We want evidence. And if I refuse? You don't have to help us. But if your father successfully pins this on you, you could still face civil liability, the villa lawsuit, the loans, the insurance policy, everything. Helping them wasn't just about justice. It was about protecting myself. I'll do it, I said. Thank you. We hung up. For the first time since the nightmare began, my apartment was quiet. No messages, no calls. Just silence. I walked to the kitchen and poured another cup of coffee. My hands were still shaking slightly. Because deep down I knew something. This wasn't over. Not even close. My father was the kind of man who never accepted defeat, and if he realized I had turned against him, he would do anything to protect himself. Even if that meant destroying me. As I lifted the coffee cup to my lips, my phone vibrated again. This time the caller ID made my stomach drop. I stared at the screen. 3 rings, 4, 5. I remembered Agent Carter's instructions. Record the call. My thumb hovered over the answer button. Then I tapped it. Hello. My father's voice came through the speaker. Calm. Too calm, Madison, he said. We need to talk. My father's voice sounded calm. Too calm, Madison, he said again. We need to talk. I stared at the skyline outside my window while my phone quietly recorded the call. Agent Carter's words echoed in my head. If he contacts you, record everything. So I did. What do you want, Dad? I asked. There was a pause on the line. Then he sighed heavily. You've made a huge mistake. Of course that's how he opened the conversation. Not are you okay? Not I'm sorry. Just blame. I reported identity theft, I said. You betrayed your family. My jaw tightened. You forged my signature on a contract. That was a technicality. A technicality. I repeated in disbelief. We were going to fix everything. You tried to frame me for insurance fraud. You're exaggerating. My grip tightened on the phone. Dad, the FBI called me. Silence, real silence, not the manipulative kind, the stunned kind. You're lying, he said finally. I'm not. Another pause. Then his voice changed. Lower harder. What did you tell them? Everything. He exhaled sharply. That was very stupid of you. Anger flared in my chest. You stole my identity. You're being dramatic. You opened loans in my name. That was temporary. You tried to move money through my accounts. We were protecting the family. I almost laughed. That's not protection, Dad. That's a crime. You don't understand how the real world works. No, I said quietly. I think I understand it perfectly now. There was a long silence between us. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You've always been ungrateful. The words hit like a slap. All those years we supported you. Supported me. I paid my own tuition. I paid my own rent. I built my life from scratch. You mean the years you used my credit score as your personal ATM? I said. Don't twist things. Then explain them. Another pause. Then he said something unexpected. Fine. My heart pounded. You want the truth, he continued. Wes? Your sister's wedding wasn't supposed to end like this. I leaned forward. So it was a scam. He chuckled bitterly. Of course it was. The admission hit me like a punch. You planned the insurance fraud. Yes. And the fake fiancé? Yes. And the property damage? Yes. My chest tightened. You were going to frame me? No. That's exactly what you tried to do? You were just the safety net. The safety net. The phrase made my stomach twist. You mean the fall guy? If things went wrong. So your backup plan was destroying my career. You're a smart girl. You would have figured something out. I stared at the phone in disbelief. You gambled my entire life on that assumption. Families take risks for each other. No. I said quietly. Criminals do. His tone hardened again. You're overreacting. I'm recording this call. Silence. A heavy, dangerous silence. You wouldn't dare. Oh. I would. You're my daughter. Not anymore. The words slipped out before I could stop them. But once they were spoken, I realized they were true. Another long pause filled the line. When my father spoke again, his voice sounded colder than I'd ever heard it. You think you're safe? My stomach tightened. What does that mean? You think turning us in protects you? Yes. You're not at V? My pulse quickened. Why? Because you're still legally tied to those accounts. The FBI disagrees. You trust them, he scoffed. More than I trust you. Big mistake. I exhaled slowly. You're not scaring me. You should be. Another pause. Then he said something that made my entire body go still. You think this was the biggest thing we've done? My heart skipped. What are you talking about? The wedding scam was small. Small. Dad? Yes. How many scams have you run? He laughed quietly. You really want to know? Yes. 23. My breath caught. 23 victims. 23 lives destroyed. Loans, insurance, property damage, fake businesses. He continued casually. People are surprisingly easy to manipulate. My hands were shaking now. You're admitting all this? You said you were recording. I am. Good. My stomach dropped. Why would you confess? Because by the time anyone hears that recording, my chest tightened. It won't matter. A chill ran down my spine. What are you planning? Let's just say your mother and I won't be around for the trial. My heart started pounding. You're running. Smart girl. You won't get far. You'd be surprised. My mind raced. Agent Carter. The investigation. The hidden accounts. Dad. I said carefully. How much money did you actually move? He chuckled. More than you'll ever see in your lifetime. How much? There was a pause. Then he said the number. $3 million. The room spun. 3 million. This wasn't a desperate family trying to survive. This was a full-scale criminal operation. And where is it now? I asked quietly. Safe. In Brazil. Maybe? Are you leaving today? He didn't answer directly. Instead he said something that made my stomach drop. You always were the smartest one. What does that mean? If you joined us, you could have been rich. My chest tightened. You tried to recruit me. Yes? When? All those times we asked for help with the family finances. Suddenly those conversations flashed through my memory. The weird business proposals. The vague investment ideas. The suspicious loan paperwork. You were testing me. I whispered. Wes. And when I refused, you became the backup plan. The fall guy. My own father had turned me into his contingency strategy. I felt something inside me snap. 30 years of loyalty. 30 years of trying to be the good daughter. Gone. You're going to prison, I said quietly. No.
Yes.
No, Madison. His voice turned almost amused. Because by the time they find us, my pulse spiked. We'll already be gone. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. The recording had captured everything. The scams. The confession. The money. But the most terrifying part wasn't what he admitted. It was what he planned next. My father wasn't preparing to fight the charges. He was preparing to disappear. My father ended the call like he always ended things. Suddenly. Coldly. Without a trace of regret. For a few seconds I sat there in silence, staring at the dark screen of my phone while the recording timer continued running. My hands were shaking. Not because of fear, but because I knew something with absolute certainty now. My father had just confessed to 23 scams and $3 million in fraud, and it was all sitting in the audio file on my phone. The moment that realization hit me, I stood up and grabbed my laptop. Agent Carter had told me exactly what to do if this happened. So I did it. I emailed the recording. Subject line, URGMT. Confess I'll call. Then I attached the file and pressed send. For a moment the world felt strangely quiet. Outside my apartment window, Chicago was fully awake now. Morning traffic flooded the streets below. People walked to work. Coffee shops opened. Normal life moved forward. But my life had split into two parts. Before that phone call, and after it. My phone rang less than 5 minutes later. Agent Carter. I answered immediately. You got the recording, I asked. Wes. His voice sounded sharper than before. How bad is it? Bad enough. My heart pounded. He confessed. Everything. There was a pause. Then Carter said something that made my pulse spike. We're moving now. Moving where? To stop your parents from leaving. Yes. My chest tightened. Do you know where they are? We believe they're attempting to leave Italy within the next few hours. My stomach twisted. Then you have to hurry. We already are. Another voice spoke in the background on Carter's end of the line. Then he came back. Madison. Yes. There's one more thing you should prepare for. What? Your family may try to contact you again. Why? To blame you. I laughed quietly. They've been doing that my whole life. This time will be louder. I can handle it. You may also be asked to testify in court. I expected that. Against all of them. My throat tightened. Thought of them. My mother, my father, my brother, my sister, all sitting in a courtroom while I described everything they did. Yes, I said finally. I'll testify. We hung up. For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not joy. Not victory, just relief. Because the truth was finally out. The next update came 6 hours later. I was sitting at my kitchen table when my phone buzzed again. Agent Carter. I answered instantly. What happened? There was a short pause. Then he said 2 words. They're caught. My chest tightened. All of them. Yes. We're at a private marina outside Lake Como. My heart pounded. They were really trying to leave. Yes. With forged passports. Of course they were. How much money did they have with them? About $400,000 in cash. I leaned back in my chair. So the rest of the money is still under investigation. But the most important part was already clear. They hadn't escaped. For the first time in their lives, they had run out of exits. Agent Carter continued. Your father resisted arrest. That didn't surprise me. What about my mom? She's in custody. And Chloe? Also detained. My chest tightened a little at that, because despite everything, Chloe was still my sister. Or at least she used to be. She asked about you? Carter added. What did she say? She wants to talk. I stared at the table. What for? She said she wants to know why you betrayed the family. A bitter laugh escaped me. Even now. Even after everything. They still saw me as the villain. Will you talk to her? Carter asked. I thought about it. About our childhood. About the birthday parties where Chloe got 2 presents for every one I received. About the endless excuses my parents made for her. About the wedding she helped stage to scam insurance money under my identity. Finally I said quietly, no. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. 3 months later I stood outside a courthouse in Chicago. The autumn wind cut through the air, carrying the smell of rain and traffic. Inside that building, my family's trial was beginning. International fraud, identity theft, insurance scams, money laundering, 23 cases, dozens of victims, $3 million. I had already testified 2 weeks earlier. It had taken 6 hours. 6 hours of explaining the truth. 6 hours of watching the jury slowly realize what my family had done. When it ended, I walked out of the courtroom feeling lighter than I had in years, because the weight I'd been carrying my entire life was never really mine. It had belonged to them, and now they were finally holding it themselves. My phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. Aide casse resolved, all unauthorized loans removed. Credit restored. Liability cleared. I stared at the message for a long moment. 30 years of being the responsible one. 30 years of cleaning up other people's disasters. And it had taken one phone call to finally stop. The same phone call my parents thought would trap me forever. Instead, it set me free. I slipped my phone into my coat pocket and looked up at the gray Chicago sky. Somewhere in a prison cell across the ocean, my father was probably still blaming me. My mother was probably still crying about how unfair everything was. My sister was probably still convinced she was the victim. But for the first time in my life, their story wasn't my responsibility anymore, because family isn't defined by blood. Family is defined by trust. And the moment they forged my name, they signed away the right to be part of my life. I turned and walked down the courthouse steps into the busy city. Not looking back, because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is finally stop saving people who were perfectly willing to destroy you.